invasive family members, making out in cars, fake pottery classes, and Windex. That's right. This week we are breaking down 2002 classic rom-com, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, with Nia, Vardalos, and John Corbett. Currently streaming on Max.
Welcome to the RomCom Rescue podcast, a brand new podcast where we bring the love and life lessons from your favorite rom-coms. I'm Kira Sabin. I'm a healthy dating educator, a certified coach, and a positive psychology practitioner. But more importantly, I spend my days teaching the skills and mindsets of dating.
And I'm Dr. Isabel Morley. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and an EFT certified couples therapist. And I help couples have the happiest, healthiest relationship possible. Join us weekly as we break down the best love lessons from your favorite rom-coms so we can all get into the best relationships possible. Because we believe that we create our own happily ever afters.
Welcome back, everybody. We're so excited that you're here, and we have a rom-com classic. I feel like this is a new classic, don't you?
Yes.
feel like every person I've ever talked to absolutely loves this movie. Today we are breaking down My Big Fat Greek Wedding, and I'm excited to talk about it after some big stinkers lately in rom-coms.
We needed this. We needed this,
right? Because
yeah,
I was starting to worry, but we just went back and I just said, let's pick a classic that I think we'll like. And I'll be honest, I wasn't sure if this was going to hold up for me because
I
other
wasn't
stuff
either.
from this time, but it really did. Let's get into it. So
you
in
loved it.
2002, you were a teenager-ish, right?
Beginning of the teenage years.
Yes. I was 29 when this came out. I remember seeing it in the theater twice. Just feels like a different lifetime, right? But
how do you
wasn't
even
as much to do.
remember? I can't remember for the life of me.
I remember because I went with a friend and we liked it so much. My other friend was like, shit, I wanted to see that. And I said, I'll go with you. Good. Which is very
memory.
rare, right? It's very rare. But that's how likable this movie is to me. Because it is just likable. And I think the best thing I remember about the time is this was an independent movie. This was not made by a major studio at all. No, in fact, it cost $6 million to make. And it is the third highest grossing rom-com of all time.
They spent that full $6 million putting those Parthenon columns up in that house.
Tell me, what do you remember about seeing it the first time?
I remember seeing it and loving it, but was it in theaters? When? How many times? I have no clue. But I remember loving it and just finding it so heartwarming. Thank God I still felt that way when I watched it for this because I needed the feels back. We've watched so many rom-coms that have just fallen flat. And when they, even though I knew it was going to happen, when they meet and they date and they get engaged, I was like all about it, feeling all the feelings. When I finished it, the first thing I did was text my very Greek brother-in-law. Shout out to Christos Komodikis. All right, that's how Greek we're talking.
That's Greek. Yeah.
And I said, okay, this movie, is it accurate? You tell me, like with your Greek family. And he said, yes. Almost everything is exactly right. There's 1,000 Nicks. There's also tons of Chris's. So that to me stood out that there was not a lot of Chris's. He said that they do not understand the vegetarian vegan thing. They are super into meat. They don't really get it. And they are superstitious and they do often live with their parents or right next to their parents. The one thing is the Windex. That's obviously not real. But I like that it was true to the culture.
I love it. And that's the takeaway I've heard from anybody I know who's Greek too. Like, oh yeah, they pretty much nailed it. But this was actually written by Nia Vardalos. It was a play that she was doing, I think a one-woman play. And Rita Wilson, so we're getting into trivia here, which is, Tom Hanks' wife, she's also Greek, and she loved it. And she said to Tom, I think we should make this movie. And it happened. So they
Rita
reached
Wilson
out.
is Greek?
She is. And then the best part was that Tom called Nia, and she thought it was a joke. And she hung up on him.
Oh,
I think
my
that's fantastic. Because I guess
What
he
did we
called.
all?
Yeah, exactly. I just thought somebody was playing a trick on me, and I hung up on him because there was no way that Tom
Yeah.
Hanks was just randomly calling me
Yeah.
about
Listen, if I got a call from Tom Hanks being like, I want to turn your book into a movie, I'm going to hang up on them too. First of all, I wouldn't answer. Who's answering their phone in 2025 anymore?
Right.
But
this is like 2000, so it
Yeah.
was working. It was probably a real phone. It probably wasn't even a cell phone.
a landline.
A
Well, there is some
landline.
throwback stuff in this. There's some throwback technology. Can I jump into my questions for
Yes,
you?
let's do
Okay.
it.
Talk about a throwback. Have you ever in your life used a travel agent to book your trip?
Okay, so here's what I will say. Working in the travel industry as I did, meaning that I worked on cruise ships, Royal Caribbean had travel agents that took care of our travel as a staff. First of all, that. And then it was very common before the internet. Oh my goodness. Well, how would you know about things? So yeah, it was a big deal because how else at that point were you going to book a cruise or book something in a whole nother country unless you were going to literally find books and call up
Well, you had to call the
hotels and
airline.
the airlines.
Can you imagine calling an
Our
airline?
world is so different now. Oh, I've called
Yeah.
airlines before. I'm that much older than you that I have done some of these things. So
Wow.
yes, it's just different now. But I do see actually this resurgence of travel agents putting together these amazing packages
Yeah.
and stuff that you can't necessarily maybe access yourself.
It just takes so much time to do it.
Well, I have a question to ask
Oh.
you. Did your family have a Windex, like something that they put on anything? Like, this is wrong, you do this. This is wrong, you do that.
Oh, that's a tough question. Nothing that I can think of except that my mom was definitely the mom who put echinacea drops in your orange juice when she thought you might be
Oh,
getting sick. And
okay.
you'd see it sitting on the surface and you'd be like, this is
Mm.
gross. What did you put in here? And she'd be like, there's nothing in there. Just drink it. Just drink it. It's good for
The
you.
subtle lying of parents, yes.
Uh-huh. That was big.
We are Vicks family. Like
yes.
Vicks mentholatum. And I believe that I saw comedian Christella recently talk about this, and I was laughing really hard, but just kind of like, if something's wrong, throw in some Vicks. Seriously, as soon as you feel a tickle, put on some Vicks. Yeah, like that was a big. And
I've never used Vicks. Ever.
Danny recently was visiting. We went to go visit my mom, and your nightstand is exactly like your mom's nightstand.
Oh,
It's got like my
snap.
natural Burt's Bees, because I always get that. It's got Vicks. It's got a box of Kleenex. It was just crazy because he's like, oh my gosh,
there
this is
it
the
is.
exact same thing that you. I'm like, I know.
Listen, Vicks, if you're listening and you want to sponsor this episode, you just let us know.
They should. I have given a lot
Vicks
of money
Vapor Rub.
throughout the years. And it's a comfort thing. I just have a really hard time not using, because as soon as I get sick, I'm like, little Vicks mentholatum's going to help with that. And it does.
And it works.
And it does. Well, let's talk about what we loved about this movie, because I remember loving it at the time, and just rewatching it, it reminded me. And the biggest thing I loved about this is it's innocent and it's slow pacing.
And it's nice.
And I miss that in movies. We really just kind of like, people are hooking up the first night, and then we're like dealing with the tragedies that happen because of that. And the fact that they're just like going on dates and they're like making out in his car, like that just felt very real to more like my experience, because I wasn't dressed to the nines going to clubs and taking boys home. This was more of my reality of going on dates, and just, I didn't sleep with people right away. So I want to see that back again in movies, because we don't do that much anymore.
No, I agree. I mean, like that they dated. I wrote "they date" in all capital letters. Just, it stood out to me because people don't date now, don't know how to date. There's so much game playing. There's so much trying to guess what's too much or too soon. But he just says, "You want to go to dinner with me?" And she just says, "Yeah." And then at dinner, he asks her out on the next date right there for the next night. It was just so straightforward and beautiful. Like you said, it was innocent. It was genuine. And I just wish we could get back to more of that kind of dating. It doesn't have to be exactly man asks a woman out, they go to a restaurant, whatever. But this honest, open way of saying, I'm interested in you. Like, can we get to know each other, as opposed to, you're right, what it is now. It's a lot of hooking up first and then figuring out what it is after. It's a lot of not actually sharing how you're feeling. And people are sick of it. I think people are sick of modern dating. So maybe we need to go back.
I would like every single couple that I know to date like this. This is what I teach. Go slow, not because it's like morally right, but it's so you can actually watch slowly but surely, is this the right person for me? When we get physical really quickly, it starts this chemical cocktail in our mind that gets us sometimes attaching to somebody we shouldn't be attaching to.
Mm-hmm.
So this isn't just like nice, this is smart dating, because you can notice things so much more when you're not in that constant push and pull of like power struggle, when you just let somebody in too quickly. And it happens all the time because it's become so normalized. And I am ready to unnormalize that shit because it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. At least people disappointed and frustrated.
Now, I certainly grew up in the era of makeovers, starting with a Brady Bunch episode that I watched. And every particularly woman got some kind of a makeover to be more acceptable or more hot or more
Glasses
whatever.
off.
But I love that Toula, this didn't feel dirty to me because she does it for herself. She's kind of like, I don't feel as confident in the way I'm dressing and the way I'm presenting myself, so I'm going to work on it. And it's really her own makeover, and it's really her own glow up that she chose to do, not because everybody under the sun was like telling her or trying to make her. And that's the best kind, is where we just go, I want something different, so I'm going to do things differently. I usually am not a big makeover person in a movie because I want people to be okay with where they're at and feel confident where they're at. But this felt really good because it was just action oriented. It was just like, this is who I want to be. I want to be in a relationship. I want to do this. And so there's some things that I want to take care of. So I feel comfortable and confident to do that. And I love that.
It was also a realistic makeover.
Yes,
She didn't have a team of 5 people come in and cut her hair and do all that. She did realistic things like doing contacts instead of glasses. And you're right, it was the timing of it. It was like, I am going to enter this new phase of my life, going back to school. I want to feel better about myself and be confident in a new way. And it really was for her. And there's, like you're pointing out, there's nothing wrong with wanting to present yourself in a way that feels good to you.
Right.
That is totally fine, understandable, wonderful thing to take care of yourself and to look the way you want to.
Yes.
And we just saw her take ownership of that. That being said, she definitely has some lingering negative body image and self-esteem issues. This doesn't fix that, right? Which I liked too. It's not like she was just, now I love myself, right? Which isn't realistic. We just see her feeling better.
Yeah, just feeling more confident, feeling more comfortable in her own skin, because she was just a little delayed in that. And I feel like I was too, actually. So I loved it. What's something you loved?
I loved that her family is obviously a lot. But here's what I'll say, except for her dad, put a pin in him, her family was accepting. They brought Ian Miller into the fold. Like, people did not push back except for her father. And when he comes over with his quiet parents, like, everybody is showing up, making them feel welcome, doing it in the way that makes sense to them, which is, have a shot, come do this. Like, I was happy to see them so happy for her. They were there to celebrate her. It was only her dad who got in the way.
Truth. They were happy and they absolutely celebrated her. And yeah, they're just like genuinely kind and interested. And I got to mention this one moment that I love. So I should just out myself that I am a huge John Corbett fan since he played Chris on Northern Exposure. So that's how long ago. So it was like around the time, like in the late 80s, early 90s. And he's always the other guy. Like, he played Aiden on Sex and the City, right? And Serendipity. He's the boyfriend. Yeah. So he seems to always be this other guy. And I'm like, why are we making this beautiful, tall drink of water who genuinely, the people he plays are usually kind and just chill and relaxed and, affable is maybe that the word that we're looking for. So I just love him so much. And I just thought he was so great in this. She wrote his character, right? So she gets to write him however. I wrote on here a couple times like, Ian's perfect. We have nothing to say about Ian.
Ian is. He's
Ian
great.
is. But he's fantastic. And I need to say just that I love John Corbett and I wish he was in more stuff. I think he makes
A great leading man.
He really does. And a different kind of leading man. Like confident in his own skin without being over the top or obnoxious or ego based or whatever it is. But we see the first time that she sees him, he comes in with his friend, who is her real life husband, Ian Gomez at the time. And it's before makeover. And she's, oh my God, that's a very good looking man. And she's embarrassed. And then when they go to dinner after her kind of makeover, and she gets very embarrassed when he realizes, oh,
yeah.
I've met you before. And there's this kind of moment that I think happened to almost every woman around the world that watched this, that is this going to go bad? Is he all of a sudden going to realize she was that like awkward girl with 80s glasses, you know,
Drunk girl.
Exactly, and not be interested? And he handles it with such grace. He handles it with such compassion. It is a masterclass in how you handle an awkward conversation, because he just says, that's not the way I remember it. I saw you then and I see you now. And you're still the same interesting, fantastic, smart, beautiful woman. Just bravo. Bravo to that. Mwah. Because Nia wrote this herself, there didn't need to be the comedy digs in for him to make him funnier. He was just a great guy who was supportive of her, who saw her family for what they were, and was willing to, what I like to use the word, collaborate instead of compromise. That's all I have to say is literally.
I did die of embarrassment when she froze in front of their table. And
you always
when
do.
She sank behind the cash register, I was like, I cannot sit still and watch this. What is going on, woman? But when you like someone and you think they're attractive and you've no experience, you freeze. You don't know what to do. Your brain short circuits. It was sweet, innocent, sweet. Yeah.
I love their meet cute, how he's like walking outside the window and notices her. And then is doing like the little elevator stairs walk and stuff. More of this, please. More characters of just great guys who are showing up, because I just don't think we could just see that as a lead male, because he's what would be considered a little more beta than alpha. Although I hate those words and I don't agree with them. But that's how we see it, is that everybody wants an alpha man. No. Give me Ian in this. Give me John Corbett. Give me an Aiden any day of the week, because that's the person that's going to be there when you need them. That's the person that notices your needs as well as their own. That's what we're fucking looking for, people.
Watching this, it was like, it clicked for me that the recent rom-coms that we've watched and haven't liked, everyone is just too mean. Everyone is this sort of false empowerment, ego-driven. I am like so assured of myself that I can be mean to people around me. And
which is, by the way, another level of insecurity, whether we think it is or not. Keep going, sorry.
Vulnerability, exactly. It's the opposite of that. And I'm not into it. I'm not into the enemies to lovers. I'm not into people being mean to each other and then finding their way to love. Like, it doesn't work for me. It doesn't work in most people's relationships. And this felt so different. They were not mean to each other. There wasn't that negativity. And so, more of that would be better.
Well, I was thinking about the fact that I was like, why did I like this so much? And at the end of the day, a rom-com is not necessarily guy meets girl anymore. It could be just person meets person. But there's going to be a conflict that they have to solve. And the conflict that they had to solve in this movie was working with her over-the-top family, you know, making a lot of decisions for them. So that was the conflict. So they got to be a team.
Together. Fighting for their relationship.
Versus almost all of the conflict in new rom-coms is between the two people. And I think we've now driven that so far. Like you said, it comes off as some kind of a positive empowerment, but it ultimately is super mean and not love, healthy relationship forming. I don't actually believe, after some of the things that people have said to each other in these movies, yes, you're going to choose that person. No, you're going to be like, I never want to talk to this person again. they have said terrible things to me, I'm going to assume that they're capable of saying terrible things to me again in the future. Just because now they like me more doesn't really change their personality.
And it's that they thought those terrible things about you enough to say, like we all have judgments of each other, but sometimes they say the most biting remarks. And it's like, how could you be with somebody that thought that felt that way about you and then threw it in your face during conflict? And here's what I'll say as a ding for this movie.
Okay.
We do see them collaborate and navigate her family.
Yes.
We see him making a lot of concessions for that to happen. And we don't see Toula leading the way. We see her being annoyed by her family and apologizing for them, wanting to avoid them. We don't see her step up in between Ian and her family and say, I am the one, I'm the barrier.
Leave him alone. Talk to me.
Yes, I am the shield. Pass information this way. And I wish there was more of that. I wish it wasn't him saying, I'll convert if that will help. I wish she had gone to him and said, this is so hard for me, for my family. Is there any world in which you would consider this? That would have felt better.
I agree. I did bring some worst love lessons. I did bring some things that were not as helpful. And that's definitely one of them, is Toula just let her family not only run right over her, but run right over Ian. And he was like such a great guy kind of thing. But ultimately, he shouldn't have had to make it. Yeah, honestly. And there's more than a couple of moments of these old school views on gender roles and kind of manipulation in those roles. Like when Toula says, I want to go back to school. I would like to learn this. And her dad says, no, why would a woman need that? And then her mom's like, men are the head of the house, but we are the neck, and we turn the head to where we want it to go. And I get the funny in that. And I get that's a lot of what particularly older generations kind of women ran the house quietly, that kind of thing. But I don't love to see it. And I don't love when anybody is having to manipulate or lie to their partner to get them to do something that maybe they don't want to do. And I don't like to see that stuff. And it came up multiple times where we're going to get the men to think that they came up with this, or we're going to, instead of just saying, I'm a grown ass woman. She's playing a 30-year-old in here. She's actually 40. So good for her in this. Yeah. But she's playing a 30-year-old. A 30-year-old woman should be able to say, I would like to get some education and try some new shit without her family telling her
any
what.
Say.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it was a lot of protecting Costas and his fragile feelings and just sort of like managing him and not really forcing him to grow up and face hard things. We see her mom a little bit do that.
And then I think that you will probably agree with me that the only thing that I was like, that's not my favorite moment, is that after they've been making out in the car, like outside of her place for like multiple moments, all of a sudden they pull up in front of his apartment and she's like, where are we?
That was a surprise.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's just kind of like, oh, this is my apartment.
It's my apartment.
Yeah. Are you okay with coming up? And I just wish there would have been a little bit more of a conversation. Like, how would you feel about next time after our date going to my apartment to spend some time, right? Instead of just pull it up, like in my perfect world, right? If we're going to like nitpick on what wasn't working perfectly in this movie, I would have loved that there had been some kind of conversation over dinner of, are you open to that? Because it was very consensual. She was super into it. It was fine. But if we're picking on, here's what I'd love to see in my perfect world, that they're having an actual conversation before somebody just assumes that they want to come up. Just that. And it's nitpicky.
I agree, especially because she's new to this, right? You just want to make sure she has enough time to really think about what she's ready for and what she feels comfortable with. When you're on the spot, it's very hard to say no to something, especially if you really like the person. So,
yeah, which could have led them to things that they don't want to do, things that they and not only is that maybe make us not feel good, it also puts a little wedge in a relationship that isn't necessary because of a very short and awkward conversation.
Yeah. Well, speaking of short and awkward conversations, if we're going to nitpick, on their second date,
yes,
Toula says, and I quote, I just don't see how this is going to work out because Ian's not Greek and her family, as everyone has to date and marry and breed with other Greeks. And that's the way of their culture, right? And she has known this for her whole life.
Yes.
And she goes on a date with a man who is clearly not Greek. And then it just comes out of, oh, I guess this isn't going to work because you're not Greek and there's no hope for us. And he talks her down from that position as, we're all human. It's okay.
We might be able to figure this out some other way.
Let's not cut it too early. But in my mind, I was like, this is sort of like with Nobody Wants This.
Right.
It's like, you got to be clear on if you need to date a person of a certain religion or ethnicity, background. And if you're willing to go against your family on that, you got to be ready for that. You've got to go into that.
And if you like somebody, the person you're dating should be very well aware of that situation, because you're absolutely right. Nobody wants this. It's like they're entering into a little bit of a war zone until everything works out or whatever it is. But I do, and I know actually that we've had this conversation on here for Nobody Wants This, Crazy Rich Asians, of just like culture. Dr. Izzy, what do you think that she should have said to her parents? We know that Toula, I wrote here, she swallows a lot to not upset her family, right? She doesn't speak up about a lot of things. So what do you think that you, if she were your client, you would want her to say to her family to set a boundary there?
I was about to say, let's talk about boundaries.
Yes.
This is hard for people, especially if they have a really close family culture. You do not have to tell your family everything that you're doing.
Right.
But, and because she lives there, it's more complicated because she feels like she has to lie and hide things, otherwise they'll find out. But I would love to see her say, listen, I'm going to be dating. I am not going to exclusively date Greek men, just so you know. I'm not ruling them out, but like, I'm open to dating anyone. I just want you to be aware of that. And then if my client, I would say, you don't have to tell your parents every time you go on a date.
Nope.
Most 30-year-olds are living on their own and not disclosing this to their families.
They're having full dating lives without their family. And I'm a pretty big, I think I've said this before, but like Danny did not meet my family for at least 6 months. I wanted us to be sure that we wanted to move forward with this. I was already 41 when we met. So I was like, let's get to know each other and make sure that this is something we're interested in before we bring in all these other people who are going to have thoughts and opinions and everything else. And that worked really well for us. But I absolutely think that this was between Toula and Ian, and she can certainly bring her parents in, but yeah. And her dad was
too much.
He was
controlling.
He was totally controlling. He was not willing to bend, and he did eventually. But unfortunately, after every woman in his life had to like either talk him into it or manipulate the conversation, which is just not what we're trying to do here.
No. But what I did see is family finds out they're dating. Ian has to come over and ask permission to date Toula from her father. Like when they get engaged, Ian didn't ask her father first if they could, all that stuff. But we see Ian, he stands up to this dynamic, right? Like he says, can I date your daughter? And Costa says no. And he says, okay. He leaves and says like, I'll see you.
What I love about him, and I feel like it's probably not a very realistic person, but he's so like laid back. He's like, okay.
He doesn't engage.
Us, and he just like, but I'm going to keep on dating your daughter because we're grown-ass adults, and you can kind of either get on board or not. And I love it. I fucking love it. And even his family.
I felt bad for them.
How I've always wanted a Greek family like that. We are much more, and just even small town Wisconsin, Stoic is going to be much more like his family, you know, because they're from Chicago. So actually very similar, but I love that they still embrace them and they had fun at the end. Yes. And
they did their best. Listen, this is not their way. This
is not
quiet.
They're drinking ouzo, which I've had more than a little bit in my day.
Man.
Any other best or worst love lessons that we want to share with everybody? Anybody? All the peoples?
I would reassert the importance of pushing back against a controlling family. Like there is a role of culture, but Toula didn't pick out her wedding dress, her wedding invitations, her bridesmaids' dresses.
Oh my gosh.
The invitations were wrong. They didn't get them reprinted. At a certain point, you have to stop accommodating everybody in your life so that you can make decisions for yourself that are important.
It's like they were like Harriets and a Harriet. And his parents made a joke about it at the wedding, which I was like, they're troopers, man. They're troopers. They really absolutely were. But yeah, because everybody was like, well, we're doing this and here's what we're going to do and how. And yeah, that would have been really hard if either Toula or Ian seemed to give a shit or wanted to fight for a wedding that was more like them. But you're absolutely right. The fact that she is peeling off bows and sequins or whatever and pearling off of her dress, this is your wedding. Like, at least be comfortable in the clothes you wear and some of the other things.
What did you think about their meet cute? We kind of touched on it. Were you all about it?
I liked it because I just like this movie because I'm just weirdly not. I dug in a little bit to put some worst love lessons and take notes, but I thought it was fun and interesting and just real life. Maybe I like this because the way they're dating is real life. Even him proposing to her in bed after they've just had that lovely, wonderful time and they're laughing and they're kissing. I'm like, I love that. And I think that shit happens all the time. Most people don't get engaged in Disney World with 17 people dancing in the background. It's more of these little moments. So I enjoyed the simplicity of this because it's just, that's how people meet. That's how people date. That's how people get engaged. I don't know, but I just like
it was real
because we're so trying to make things interesting or funny or over romantic that we lose so much.
Yeah,
so.
I agree. Even the simple act of him coming back to the travel agency so he could walk back and forth and see her and flirt with her was like, that is true romance. That really is. Way to feel special and excited and nervous as opposed to some of the over-the-top stuff we see. The big grand gestures or the
and
can't believe we're...
And just hope. Yeah, it's just a different gig meeting people in the wild. And the feelings you get to have. I love that Danny and I took it slow. I love when holding hands is exciting. I think sleeping with somebody so soon really ruins, I don't want to say ruins, but
it robs you of that time.
It does.
It's just
that special, exciting time. And a lot of times because we can't sit with our feelings or we don't want to upset the other person, we may emotionally or physically do things that we're not ready for. And it's just, it's unhelpful. So I just loved that about this. And I wish we saw more of just normal people dating without crazy ass situations. Because that's how most of us are doing it. Any best or worst lines?
I had lots of romantic lines that made me swoon.
I know you did. I'm glad somebody did this well.
I was all about this movie. I was like, yes, this is the best. She asks Ian why he loves her. And he says, because I came alive when I met you. That is what a great love and a great partner does. It makes you feel alive. It makes you feel full of possibility, the best version of yourself.
Hope, right? Hope for the future.
Energy. I also thought her mom had the best lines. Her mom says, I gave you a life so you could live it. Talk about individuation, right? This is your life I sacrificed, but it's yours now to do what you want with. Beautiful. And then her mom, when she's talking down her dad, who's like, why did she do this to me? Blah,
that he made it all about him, right? Like, they got engaged. And it's a personal offense to me, but.
Yes. And so her mom says, she didn't do this to you or to me. They fell in love. It happens.
And I know. See, that's how much I like this movie, that I'm like, they fell in love and it happens. And I just went along with it when then I don't believe that theory or that belief about love at all. But in that moment, I'm like, of course.
Yes, it does just happen.
Boy.
We're so gooey about this movie.
It's so funny about when I like a movie, what I notice and what I don't versus when I don't like a movie. Like when that vibe is off or when I feel like the characters are like, it's hilarious to me. If they were our clients, anything else that you would say? I just said for a big one is family boundaries for Toula and bringing Ian in because he's going to need to have some family boundaries with her family also.
Yes.
But also her working on self-worth because even though she gave herself a makeover, we do see herself a handful of times kind of just,
Denigrate herself.
Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
Like, why do you like me? Or why would you want to be with me? Which just
Mhm.
shows low self-worth.
He's just
so
going to
we would
walk
just,
away.
Exactly. And so if they were my clients, we'd be working hard on boundaries. What about you?
Yeah. I put the same thing. I said family boundaries, self-esteem, and self-worth, not related to her appearance. And I said, Ian might be perfect. You're right. I don't know what he can work on. He'll need support supporting the family boundaries work, but I don't see anything glaring that he has to do.
No, let's
Sort
be
of her work.
honest. She has written a very great character. So this is not what humans are like. Unfortunately, although there are chill guys, laid back guys, he's still going to have feelings and its own struggles and problems. But in this, she wrote a really great,
solid
Ian. Yeah, I'd love to share some of the trivia, the behind the curtains, because there's a lot of stuff because this movie's so old. So as I mentioned, Ian's jerk friend is actually Nia's husband, Ian Gomez. And they were together for 25 years. I'm bummed that they broke up in 2018, but they were together a really long time. And he's on a ton of stuff. He was on Felicity, so I actually knew him, but he has been in a bunch of stuff. And of course, Ian, the main character, and her husband's name is Ian. She also said that she did not have to pay for any catering during the film because when the film was shot, all the local Greek restaurants learned about it and they kept sending over free food.
Stop it. That is
I love
perfect
Greek food. I need
example
more
of Greek culture.
people in my life, man. That's what I'm thinking. Santorini, Greece is my very favorite place on earth. So of all the places I have been, I've had the most wonderful, magical days on Santorini. And then Isle of Capri
they do love
in Italy
to feed
is second.
people.
They do. Listen, I love
my brother-in-law
to be
will
fed.
do the spit in the yard. Like they do it.
I love it.
As a vegetarian, it's obviously not my cup of tea, but
got it. Truth. Yes. Yes. But I just thought that was fantastic. Once again, it's the third highest grossing romantic comedy of all time. In the wedding scene, all the people on the bride side is Nia's real family. So everybody that was really them. And then once again, even though it was a small independent film, it went on to earn over $369 million. Just to remember, even at the time, this was known as like a huge movie success because it was made so cheaply and it went so big. And then, Nia was supposed to be 30, but she was 40 in real life. And then John Corbett was 41. Oh, the last thing I wanted to say, Lainey Kazan, who plays her mom, was like a super star in the late 60s and 70s. She was a Broadway breakout star. I think she was a playmate for a while. But I found all of these incredible commercials that she was in. And she's super sexy and she's like singing. I had no idea. But I will try to put up a couple links to some commercials in our show notes, everybody, because these commercials, she is stunning. And she was like a super sex symbol in the late 60s, early 70s. And I just had no idea. And that's
so funny.
They're fantastic. They're fantastic. Will they make it?
Of course they make it.
Of course they will.
I mean,
of course they will.
Because Ian will make sure that they make it. He will do heavy lifting and accommodating to keep that relationship alive. But we also don't see big problems between them besides the role of her family.
Right.
And we don't really know how they handle conflict because we didn't see it in this movie. We didn't see them fight. We didn't see them. So hard to say with certainty, but I think they do.
I would think so. Now, there are 2 more movies. I have seen both of them. I'm going to tell you that at least one, if I don't remember, both of them were unfortunately nowhere near as good as this movie. More of the...
What are they about? They get married and have a kid.
The kid, then her wedding. And then there's a whole nother, but just I wasn't that impressed. I was a little bummed knowing how much I liked this. But I think that they'll absolutely make it because, once again, I always felt like they were a team against her family in some level. But that's a great status to be in, is 2 people working together as a team. So what are our tacos?
You know what? I gave it 5s across the board. I felt it. I loved it. Gave me all the butterflies. I was like, yes to this. 5 overall, 5 love lessons.
I think it's hilarious how I have no real rhyme to reason week to week of these tacos. So overall 5 because I just love it. And then I just gave it a 4 because I thought there was a couple, like, you know, with her dad and stuff like that I wasn't in love with. But really, that's just, I don't know. I guess I wanted to feel cool or something because I love this movie too. It's fantastic.
We loved it.
All right, guys, that's a wrap on this episode of RomCom Rescue. We've laughed, we've analyzed, and we've uncovered the real-life love lessons behind the romance.
Make sure to follow, subscribe, and leave a review if you love what we do. It helps us bring more rom-com magic and real talk your way.
Because at the end of the day,
we believe that we create our own happily ever afters, and that Windex cures everything.
Windex! And the
And
funniest thing about Windex is it's never used for glass cleaning in the movie, by the way. It's used for
That's
everything
true.
else.
Physical ailments.
Yes.
Yeah. Huh. Wait, did you say Danny is a train travel agent?
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
just for trains? That feels very niche.
He's a certified travel agent.
He's a trained with an ED travel agent. I thought you said he's a train travel agent, and we were just going to blow past that. I was like, the one mode of transportation you don't need a travel agent for.
Oh my gosh, that is hilarious. I know, that is hilarious.